Welcome back to Art Talk. I'm your host, Kevalone, and you are in the Art Attack studio right now. Today on Art Talk, we're going to talk about the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin. Now, Aretha Franklin was born in 1942 to Barbara Siggers Franklin and Clarence LaVon Franklin, better known as C.L. Franklin. And her family, when she was born in Memphis, Tennessee. And her family relocated to Buffalo, New York. And Aretha was about 2 years old when they relocated to Buffalo, New York. And then from Buffalo, New York, they moved to the Motor City. So she went from Memphis, Tennessee, which is a musical city, mind you, very powerfully musical city. And then she moved to New York, to Buffalo, which is upstate New York. And then they went to Detroit, the Motor City, which is very musical city as well. So in Detroit, she was 5 years old when they moved to Detroit. Aretha was. And at that age, her dad, he took over this church in Detroit. It was called New Bethel Baptist Church in Detroit. And he was famous, C.L. Franklin, for preaching. He would get booked at all kinds of events to speak. And he would travel the country to do these events. And that's part of his popularity at his church, was that he had this voice that was amazing. They called it $1 million voice. And that was C.L. Franklin. And that was her dad. So C.L. Franklin, when he took over the New Bethel Baptist Church, that was where Aretha would perform, and she would sing a lot. And she knew how to play the piano at a very early age. She learned by ear, they say. So she wasn't physically taught how to play the piano. So she's a pianist that was self-taught. And that's serious. That's a powerful thing. So Aretha had an early exposure to crowds and performing at a very young age. So she was destined to be the star, in my opinion, that she was. I think she was destined to be that star. And she's a very, very unique singer. She has a unique voice. And when you hear her voice, it kind of takes you over a little bit, depending on what song. I mean, everybody has a favorite Aretha Franklin song. I think everybody can pick at least one that they love, done by Aretha Franklin. So Aretha, her mother, she was a singer and a pianist as well. She was very talented. And I think that's where, obviously that's where a lot of her talent came from, was from her parents. Obviously, that's in the genes right there. Yeah, you can't take that from anybody. When they have talent and it's family is the same way and it's coming from the family genes, that's just a serious talent. And she used it well. She had a powerful career, and but when she was young, like a teenager, kind of going into her 20s or late teens. She met Sam Cooke, and Sam Cooke showed her about R&B and secular music, and Aretha had never sang secular music, and he was trying to convince her that she needed to sing some secular music and get in the business of making records. So she considered it, of course, because she liked Sam Cooke. And Sam Cooke was like, he was like a playboy type of guy back then. And he had a lot of juice, a lot of women liked him, you know, and he was extremely talented. He could sing. He had an amazing voice, Sam Cooke. I would advise anybody that doesn't know anything about Sam Cooke to check out some of his music. He was amazing. He was very blessed and talented. So Aretha was tight with Sam, and they, you know, they sang together among other things, and you know, they were musical friends as well. So he was trying to guide her in her career a little bit. So I believe he brought her to the record labels, and the record labels, of course, they responded positive to Aretha because of her amazing voice, and her talent is just undeniable. So one thing that's interesting about Aretha and the record labels was that, or the record label she signed to, was that she had to be coached in singing secular music. She never sang secular music before. So she was used to gospel, just, you know, mainly gospel, because of her church upbringing and her parents, you know, being in the church and everything. So she had to be coached to sing secular music, and it's amazing the transformation she made into secular music because she had never done it before. So when she sang, I believe you could see, I mean, you could feel the spirituality in her music. She had the gospel roots that she had. It came through and it shined through in her new music that she was making after she signed the contract with the record label. And they actually had to beg her dad to allow her to sing professionally like that. It was a few people that had approached him also prior to them, and it was one of them, you may know out there, people may know, is Berry Gordy. And Berry Gordy, according to legend, Berry Gordy wanted Aretha and her sister, and he wanted to sign them to a contract. And their dad, C.L. Franklin, Clarence LaVon Franklin, he wouldn't allow that because he, you know, he was very protective of his daughters, and he didn't want them exposed to, you know, the real world, so to speak. So he kind of thwarted or slowed down their ability to get into secular music and sing, because they were being courted by a lot of different artists and labels and stuff like that. So entities that really wanted to get her to sing professionally, Aretha. And basically he gave in at some point and she signed. So once they showed her how to sing and everything, you have to keep in mind at that time she was into civil rights real heavy, and also she and Harry Belafonte used to do fundraiser concerts to raise funds for Martin Luther King. I don't know if a lot of people knew that, but I believe in my opinion, that's a powerful thing. That's deep, you know. And I guess they had to make money somehow, you know, or get the money from somewhere, Martin. So, yeah, there's a lot of stories that are being told about C.L. Franklin and Martin Luther King and things like that. I'm not going to get into everything. I just like the positives. So that's what I'm dealing with today. And Aretha had such a powerful career that all I can do is speak positively about, you know, the things that she contributed to the earth. She made the earth a better place with her voice and her talent. And that's what makes you love Aretha, is the real Aretha outside of her singing career. The real Aretha was a mom, a grandmother. Eventually, you know, she was a real person. She was a cook, a powerful cook. Like, people, she was known for her cooking and her fried chicken, you know, and cornbread and everything. She did soul food in a unique way, and people remember that every time about Aretha when they visit her. I would hear different interviews about people visiting Aretha Franklin, friends of hers, and they would say about the food. They would always mention the food and, you know, how good she could cook. You know, which is expected from her roots. That's expected. You know, that's her southern roots. Our people, we can cook, and we're very resourceful. We are very resourceful. So Aretha Franklin went on to get all kinds of medals and all kinds of awards she won, too numerous for me to mention. I can tell you that. But it's like, when you think about a career in singing, everybody wants to be the best. Everybody wants to do, you know, the most they can in their career, and they want to make the biggest mark that they can and all of that when they're singing or performing or what have you. But I think if you don't start early, whether you're singing or wrestling or baking cakes or whatever you're into, if you don't start as a child, then you can't. That's my almost done button. I mean buzzer. So I'm supposed to be done by now, folks. But it's all good. I love talking to y'all. So if you don't start early in life at something like that, you're not going to be as good as these people who've been doing it all of their lives, you know. Like, I've been painting and drawing since I was a little kid. So I would hate to, like, challenge me at drawing. It's the same thing with her. I would hate to, you know, see her battle somebody singing, you know, although there was one battle. I think they set it up, though, because it was real nice, though. It was one of my favorite Aretha Franklin performances, and it was with Luther Vandross. And Luther, it was a concert, a live concert, and Luther was singing on stage, and then Aretha came out and was singing with him. It's something you gotta see. You would really enjoy it, especially this audience here, because, you know, there's a lot of creative folk, and I'm sure there's some singers and people that appreciate music maybe. So I want you to hear that, and you have to really hear, like, how they traded notes and they were on stage just battling, and he would hit a note, then she would hit a note. I would imitate it for y'all, but, you know, my talent is this, what you're looking at. I paint. I don't really sing or anything else. So you won't catch me dancing on here or any of that. But yeah, so Aretha, some people, everybody has a favorite performance of hers. Like some people would mention the 1998 Grammys and her performance there. And I love that performance too. It's powerful. It's very nice. But I don't think it's her best performance. Like, you know, it's not the one that stood out for me. I think the one that stands out for me is the Luther one because of how she was being herself on the stage. Like, she was like, I like this. And you could hear her talking and stuff, and she was singing. And, you know, Aretha had a lot of opinion, you know, and if she felt something, she would tell you, I guess. That's what in my opinion, I think she was outspoken a lot. And that's a good thing, you know. Especially, you know, back in her time, women were, you know, abused and kind of, I guess they didn't have a voice, you know, back then. And for her to be speaking up in every situation, it says a lot. And I'm glad she was able to, you know, go to that point where she could express herself and have an opinion and some power and, you know, employees and all of that stuff. That's a beautiful thing. And I'm glad she went to that level where, you know, she was singing in orchestras and bands and, you know, yeah, it's kind of like a Vegas performance is an average thing. Like to her, that's just something light, you know, because she sang for presidents and she performed for all kinds of politicians and royals and, you know, rich people and everything. So Aretha has been in movies. Her voice has been used in a lot of soundtracks and things like that. So it's a beautiful thing. Her legacy will live on. She's the first woman in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which is a powerful thing. Very, very powerful thing. And because, you know, we invented rock and roll. So that's one thing. You have to get past the rock and roll thing, because we actually invented rock and roll. That was something that was part of the progression of music. And a lot of people, it's controversial whether or not people had stolen their whole style from a lot of black performers back in the day, which is another whole video. But I wanted to discuss Aretha Franklin with you because she was blessed, and she blessed us with her performances and her voice, and her talent is immense. And we love you, Aretha. We miss you, and there will never be another. If you like what you hear here and what you're experiencing at Art Talk with Kevalone in the Art Attack studio, then please don't hesitate to subscribe, like, and share this video. Thank you, and have a blessed day.